I didn't cry when she slid the ring across the table. Not in front of them. Not while I stood there, tray balanced in my hand, pretending to be invisible. She winked. My childhood best friend. His so-called soulmate. The ring? Mine. For our 10th anniversary. I knew it instantly, because I picked it out, months ago. I thought it was waiting for me, hidden in his dresser, waiting for the right night. Instead, I watched him lower himself on one knee, voice trembling with fake sincerity, asking her to marry him. At our restaurant, the one where he first said he loved me, where he once held my hand so tight I thought nothing could ever pry us apart. Her answer was a smirk, a cruel no. Then the slide of metal across linen. And divorce papers, folded neatly. Already signed. I didn't cry, not then. We met when I was 21. He said I was the fire he'd been looking for. I believed him. I was young enough to mistake intensity for loyalty, grand gestures for devotion. We built a life on late nights, whispered promises, and inside jokes. And with her, my best friend, always close by. She was at our wedding, my maid of honor. She held my bouquet when I said, I do. The betrayal wasn't sudden. It came in shadows. A phone face down. Laughter in another room. Working late too often. Shirts smelling faintly of her perfume. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I played my role. Loyal wife. Trusting friend. I smiled, while inside, something sharper than grief was being carved out. By the time I found the text, her lipstick kiss emoji glowing on his screen, I wasn't shocked. I was ready. I didn't scream, didn't throw things, didn't confront him. I smiled. I kissed his cheek goodnight. And then, quietly, I began to build my revenge. First, the finances. He loved control. The accounts were his kingdom. I studied them in silence, memorized his passwords, his investments. I learned which assets were mine by law, which weren't. While he was working late, I was at the bank, quietly moving the pieces into place. Second, the narrative. He wanted to be seen as the perfect husband, the charming businessman, the man with everything. I knew his secrets, the debts he hid, the deals he cut that weren't entirely legal. I gathered proof, copies tucked neatly away. Third, patience. That was the hardest part. I had to wait for the perfect moment, wait for him to be blindsided the way he blindsided me. And then, that night at the restaurant, the moment landed in my lap like a gift. When she rejected him, my best friend, his lover, I saw the panic in his eyes. His plan shattered. He thought he'd trade me in for her, shiny and new, without consequence. He didn't expect her to humiliate him. He didn't expect me to be the one serving their table, apron-tied, eyes steady, silence sharper than glass. She walked out first, heels clicking against tile, leaving him red-faced and alone. He glanced at me, maybe expecting pity, maybe even forgiveness. I gave him neither. I simply placed the divorce papers in front of him. Sign. He opened his mouth. I didn't let him speak. You've already lost. You just don't know how much yet. The fallout was slow, deliberate. The house? Mine. The accounts? Emptied, redistributed legally under my name. His reputation? In flames. Once the files I'd collected found their way into the right inboxes. A scandal too precise to trace back to me. Every step I took was surgical. Every cut, deep enough to cripple, never enough to kill. I wanted him breathing, living with the ruins. And her, my best friend, I didn't have to lift a finger. She exposed herself. People whispered. The betrayal spread. She lost more than I ever could have taken from her. The last time I saw him, he was sitting in his car outside what used to be our house. He looked smaller, deflated. He didn't knock. Didn't dare. I stood at the window, watching. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I just let him see me, standing tall in the life he thought he'd taken from me. The ring he tried to give her, now pawned, turned into cash that paid for my freedom. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat by the window, and let the quiet settle. For the first time in years, it wasn't heavy. It was clean. Revenge doesn't taste like fire. It's cold, controlled, like the last spoonful of dessert at a table where everyone else is left, and you're the only one who knows the meal was poisoned. I didn't cry when she slid the ring across the table, and I don't cry now. I smile, because I won.